My name is Robert Noyce. I was born in Burlington, Iowa in 1927. I grew up in a small town, the son of a minister, with Midwestern values of hard work and community. But I also had an insatiable curiosity. From the time I was a boy, I wanted to know how things worked. I took apart radios, I built model airplanes, I fiddled with anything mechanical or electrical that I could get my hands on. That curiosity defined me. When it came time for college, I chose Grinnell, a small liberal arts school in Iowa. I studied physics there, fascinated by the fundamental rules that govern the universe. After graduating in 1949, I knew I wanted to dig deeper. I went to MIT, where I earned my Ph.D. in physics in 1953. The world was changing rapidly. The transistor had just been invented at Bell Labs in 1947 by Shockley, Bardeen, and Brattain. Suddenly, there was a new frontier in electronics. Tiny devices that could replace bulky vacuum tubes, faster, cheaper, and more reliable. I wanted to be part of that revolution. My first job out of MIT was with Philco in Philadelphia, working on early transistor development. But soon I found myself drawn to California, where William Shockley had started a new laboratory. He was one of the inventors of the transistor, and the opportunity to work with him was irresistible. I joined Shockley Semiconductor in 1956. It didn't take long to see the problems. Shockley was a genius, but he was a poor manager. He distrusted his team, withheld information, and alienated people. 8 of us, all young men full of ideas and ambition, finally decided to walk away. That decision earned us a nickname, the Traitorous 8. What we really wanted was the freedom to create. With backing from Sherman Fairchild, we founded Fairchild Semiconductor in 1957. At Fairchild, I had the opportunity of a lifetime. I was surrounded by brilliant colleagues, and together we pushed the boundaries of what silicon could do. In 1959, I filed a patent for something called the planar integrated circuit. Now let me explain. Jack Kilby, working at Texas Instruments, had already demonstrated the concept of an integrated circuit, a way to put multiple components onto a single piece of semiconductor material. His device worked, but it was made of germanium, and it wasn't practical for mass production. What I developed was different. I used silicon, a far more stable material, and combined it with the planar process, which allowed us to lay down thin layers of metal to interconnect the components right on the chip. That made the integrated circuit not just possible, but manufacturable. It was the birth of modern microelectronics. The implications were enormous. Until then, electronics were built piece by piece, wiring together discrete transistors, resistors, and capacitors. My invention meant that all of those could be built together on one slice of silicon, reliably and at scale. Computers that had once filled entire rooms could now be shrunk down in size and cost. It opened the door to a world where electronics would be everywhere, from spacecraft to wristwatches. I stayed at Fairchild through the 1960s, helping it become the leading semiconductor company in the world. But success brought its own problems, and the company became bogged down in bureaucracy. In 1968, Gordon Moore and I left to start a new venture. We called it Intel, short for Integrated Electronics. Our mission was clear: to keep driving the frontier of semiconductor technology forward. At Intel, we focused first on memory chips, faster, denser, more reliable ways to store information. But we soon took the next leap. In 1971, Intel introduced the 4004 microprocessor, the first commercially available central processing unit on a single chip. That tiny piece of silicon condensed the power of an entire computer's brain into something you could hold in your hand. It was a true revolution. The microprocessor became the foundation of personal computing, and eventually of the digital world we now take for granted. But I've always believed that my contribution was not just technical. I cared deeply about how companies were run and how people worked together. At Intel and across Silicon Valley, we built a culture that was different from the old corporate hierarchies. We encouraged open doors, first-name communication, and an atmosphere where ideas mattered more than titles. We rewarded creativity, collaboration, and risk-taking. I wanted engineers to feel that they had the freedom to dream and to build. That culture became one of Silicon Valley's greatest strengths. Looking back, I know that I was part of something larger than myself. I didn't invent the transistor, and I wasn't the only one working on integrated circuits. But my work helped make the semiconductor practical, manufacturable, and central to modern life. It gave humanity the tools to compute, to communicate, to analyze, and to imagine on a scale never before possible. From spacecraft exploring the solar system, to medical devices saving lives, to the phone in your pocket, it all traces back to those first circuits etched into silicon. They called me the mayor of Silicon Valley, and perhaps that name captures what I valued most. Not authority, not wealth, but the role of helping build a community where innovation could flourish. If I could leave you with one thought, it would be this: human curiosity paired with perseverance can reshape the world. I was a boy from Iowa who liked to take things apart, and I lived to see those same instincts create an industry that transformed civilization. That is the power of asking again and again, how can this be better? That is the legacy I am proud to leave.